So, welcome to day two of trying to have a conversation. So, good. So, actually, last time we spoke about Tata Punch, right?
Oh,
And like
yes.
the safety standards of Indian cars and how it should be. It's not, but it should be the first priority when you're buying a car in India
True,
at
true,
least.
true, true, true.
Uh, and we try to understand why it should be so, what kind of you know pushed Indian consumers to accept safety as their first priority because of some internet revolutions that Jio and Reliance brought into the Indian market.
Hmm.
Um,
Lots of
so
conversation.
yeah, yes, yes, yes. We were thinking to talk about Indian aeronautic space, right, and how difficult it is to run or to even think about running an airlines in India.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah. So I think where we got this idea was how we spoke about in the last conversation that we had, after which we've been
Mm,
struggling to talk until now, is that basically in the Western world, which is far from here, they use flights as frequently as we use trains, or as
right.
easily as
Yeah.
we use trains or
Mhm.
buses, right? And how we treat airplanes in India like the chariots of gods, and other synonyms, and uh,
Yes.
and and why it's so hard to run. And like we just briefed upon why it's so hard to run the airlines industry in India.
Mm.
So yeah, that's where we wanted to talk about. And I don't think we've gained any more knowledge in between then and now. So I think we'll just
No.
continue our conversation anyhow.
Okay.
So I think we need to talk about two or three checkpoints in the Indian Airlines timeline, which is one is around when the great market crash, 2007, 2008. That's when the airlines got completely refreshed. And then there came a new brand of airlines where there was uh, what's the name of the really rich dude who's not rich anymore? Apna Malia
Yeah,
Malia.
Malia.
Sorry. So, where my bad. So where
Why
he
are you
came in.
doing so dirty?
I'm sorry, dude. Respect Mr. Malia. I actually do, but anyway. So, dude,
Mm.
it just didn't come to me. Yeah. It's been a
Fine.
while since people
Okay.
have been talking about him. So
Um,
nobody. Yeah.
his son is still in the media spotlight. He's been asking people like, why do you refer to me as Vijay Malia's son? Why don't you call me as I am, Siddharth Malia?
Because you've not done jack shit, dude. Do something. Dude, the only thing he's known for is being really fair that we don't believe he's his son, and driving a Ferrari. Right?
Dude, like I actually had the same thought process when I watched that documentary on Netflix, India's billionaires or something. Oh, bad billionaires, something like that.
Bad boy
Uh,
billionaires.
Bad boy billionaires,
I
right?
haven't watched it.
And then there was some white dude, like white looking ish British
Yeah.
Indian guy, and they were just taking his interview. And until that, lower thirds came up, Vijay Malia's son, Siddharth Malia. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit, this is the guy.
Can't be, right?
I didn't know him.
Yeah. It's fine. I can talk stuff about him for eternity, but I don't want to. Anyway, where were we? So why do
Airlines.
we just got so diverted in the first 2 minutes of this conversation, dude. We're talking about airlines.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're
Mm.
talking shit about someone. Anyway, so how that guy brought up the whole Kingfisher Airlines industry, and how he handpicked all the air hostesses, but let's not get there because
Mm.
that's against a lot of things. Anyway, so what I wanted to say is airlines in India were really expensive up to the point where only the elite could afford to go in them. And then they got to the point where the upper middle class man could think of going in an airline once a year, probably. And I'm talking about like the very upper middle class man, like very, very upper middle class man,
Mm.
not the regular middle class man. And then I think synonymously with how where the internet got really cheap is where also the airline industry got really cheap right before the pandemic, right? Pandemic screwed everything up. But I think the 3 or 4 years before the pandemic, which was when we were just in college. Let's not talk about college, but those 3 4 years, airlines got so cheap that if we planned about a month in advance, we could get an airline's ticket as cheap as a railway ticket. And I'm not kidding. I've actually experienced this. Um, Airlines ticket to there were so many promotions of flights from Bangalore to Goa for under 1K, 999, and a lot of people booked
Yes,
them,
yes.
and a lot of people went in them. But what I wanted to emphasize here was for for a very large amount of time, or the airline people who ran all the airlines didn't consider India to be a very big market in terms of number of people, not the money, number of people. People always thought that India is a developing country, it'll take a while until airlines can be profitable, and not a lot of people are going to use it. And then came like the internet revolution, and the airlines makers actually made tickets more affordable. And then there was this 3 4 year span where we couldn't really find tickets for the next 2 weeks. We actually had to book tickets at least 3 weeks in advance for anywhere you wanted to go, because the tickets got so cheap. People just preferred going in a plane instead of going in a train. So, and then the pandemic screwed everything up. Right now tickets are back to where they were 10 5 6 7 years ago. So, and we did lose a lot of airlines during the pandemic, which was kind of a disaster. Who did we lose? Did we lose Indigo?
We lost, the Deccan Airlines completely.
Yeah.
Although they were the industry revolutionaries,
Yes.
right?
Definitely, definitely.
There's an entire movie about the Deccan Airlines. It's called Sorarai Potru.
Oh.
It's an amazing movie. You should watch it if you haven't watched it. Dude, I rarely recommend movies to you, especially.
Yeah.
But
all of your rarely recommended movies are still on my list of movies to watch. So this will also go somewhere there. I'm sorry, I don't watch movies, man. I can't be saying this as a 23-year-old, but I've stopped watching movies. It's a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
What I did start watching was the first 2 episodes of Squid Games, which we can talk about sometime later.
I'm still in the second episode. I've still not.
No. I wanted to talk to you about the Squid Games as a global thing, which you might not have known about. Yeah. We'll probably bring this up sometime later in this.
I started admiring the power of Korean culture like 1 month back. I was like, okay, now they're on to some shit. I expected something, but like I was like, okay, yeah, to some extent I was actually right. But that's a topic for a different
especially
video.
Considering half of Korea is absolutely useless to the global economy because they're just trying to destroy it. And the other half is so small, dude, in terms of area and population. I was going through the map today because like my mouse pad is a giant world map. I was going through the map today and dude, Korea is so tiny and they're like, we actually are pretty useless as Indians.
They're almost as big as Delhi, no? Or
No,
smaller than Delhi.
No. They're bigger, but they're like half the size of some of our states, man. I'm talking about our states. We've got like, I don't know, last I remember 29, 30 of them until they keep dividing. So, yeah, we are actually a pretty useless population if you see it. We come like, I don't know, 120th or something in the World Education Index out of 150 countries. The others don't even participate and become like second or third in the emissions. Like this is what we do. We just create waste in terms of like actual waste products and human beings.
I think we come, first, second, or third in terms of emission because the Western world got a So first is China actually.
China,
we come in second because both China and India share this. The guy who started the race late. So the Western world, because they were involved in World War I, World War II, and like wo jo bhi bolenge chalta hai, right? And then they had this industrial revolution. Suddenly they had all that technology that they needed to just boost past everyone. And then as soon as World War II was over, they're like, sab log apna close your shops because you are emitting too much.
Yeah, true.
Okay, and they're like, now you have to listen to my whatever greenhouse emission, whatever that shit. Even after Cold War, after Cold War especially, they became more aggressive. They're like, start following Green Revolution and all these things. It's such a hypocritical thing to impose on some developing countries. And
But
for that, I actually appreciate China because they're like, screw you, because you don't,
they say screw you to the
uh,
whole world anyway. But don't you think the Western world being hypocritical about this whole climate and global phenomenon is also very coincident with actual global warming also happening side by side? It's not just
yeah,
them being hypocritical, but they also are facing a climate crisis. And
yeah,
yeah, it depends on from whose point of view you're looking at. If you're looking at from their point of view, they're like, yeah, these people are dumb. They are developing, but they need to like learn. And if you look at from our point of view, we think that, yeah, they've had a very big piece of the pie already, and they're not letting us have our piece of the pie.
huh.
So it's a debatable, we can probably put it as a debate. I'll write it down.
Cool.
Anyway, where were we?
So we were talking about Sorarai Potru, the movie
Yeah.
Potru. It's a Tamil movie or Telugu. I don't know what I watched it in because I have a hard time distinguishing between Tamil and Telugu. Okay. Even if you talk to me in Telugu, I'll probably start talking to you in Tamil and then I won't even realize what I'm talking in. Okay. So that's how bad I am in terms of talking.
Cool.
But I can understand which language you're talking to me. Okay. So the movie actually talks about how this guy, he he comes from a small village, gets into Air Force, right? He serves at least 2 to 3 years and gets into a fight actually with his superior because of some reason.
Okay.
And his relationship with his dad is very bad. When his dad actually dies, he tries going back to his village, right? So he's in a Air Force camp somewhere in Dehradun, I guess, or the other one near Mumbai. When he's trying to get an airline ticket to come home, right? It's not like train tickets where you get tatkal and like somehow you just stand in the train and you go back home. That's not how it is. So in flights you have to get a permanent ticket, right? Like proper.
You can't hang around.
Yeah. So he goes to the ticket counter. He's like, "Ma'am, give me a ticket to my home," right? He just says some address, and then they're like, "We have just one seat, and it's in first class, and you need to pay." I think he was asked to pay 13 grand.
Loads of money.
13 grand, and I think that was the year 2000s or something. Okay.
Yeah, basically.
So you can imagine what is the
kidney. Yeah.
Kidney bills though, right?
Yeah.
He's like, "Look, I have this much of amount, and this is my gold, whatever." He was a pretty rich dude. Okay. So he gives the gold and all. He's like, "Yell raklo and like give me the ticket." They're like, "No, only cash."
Yeah.
Okay. He looks back. He sees the entire line of people standing to get that one ticket, and he's like, "Please, I beg you, give me some cash. I'll go. I'll go for the funeral and come back." But like nobody is willing to help him because of course everybody wants that one ticket. No? Somehow gets on the road, full road trip, like for like 2 days. Once he reaches home, his dad is already cremated. The ashes are there. That's it. And like his mom belts the shit out of him. Like, "What kind of a son are you? You are angry on your dad, but like not coming to his funeral is like another thing." Tries to explain. He tries to explain his side of the story, but like she's not in the mood, right? That actually drives him to create a low-cost airliner. Right? But in the process, he finds out how bureaucratic the entire process is, how much money he has to feed to everyone, how many asses he has to lick before he actually gets to get the flight off the runway.
True.
Yeah. So I won't reveal much because there are so much of twists and turns into the entire story. Our man Malya is also a part of the story.
Of course.
And yeah.
He's a part of a lot of stories in the 2000s. I'm not going to watch it. As soon as you said Telugu or Tamil or something, I'm like, no.
No. It's not that typical over-the-top kind of South movie. It's a good movie. It's a really nice movie. Yeah.
I've seen some bizarre South movies. I'm just saying. So my expectations are pretty low already. I'm not dissing. There are some good South movies. I haven't watched them, but I've seen the bizarre ones.
You've seen Drishyam, no? Now you know the standards.
I don't know what I've
Yo,
watched, dude.
bro,
I'm,
what movie have you watched from South?
oh, well, like most of the movies were when like the hero kicks someone and the person flies away into the building or something. And then there was this insane movie. You might know this movie. There was this insane movie where um, I have nothing, I have no plot of the movie. Okay, I just watched this one scene, and this is when I was like, I'm done. This was very recently. So,
Okay.
but the movie is pretty old. I think. I hope it was pretty old because it can't be a new movie with that logic. I'll give up. Legit. So what I watched, where my eyes bled, was somebody needed a heart transplant, and they were like in the
Oh, I
ICU
think I know this. Okay, okay.
without a heart, right? They're waiting for a heart. And the person who's
It
getting the
rolled.
heart, the person who's getting the heart, he's got this giant thermocol heart with him, and is fighting villains, and the heart's like falling on the road, flying places, and still picks the heart up, fights all the villains off,
I know
and now
this
he's
movie.
running
I
with
know
the
this.
heart, right? And now cinematic movie climax that this guy needs the heart in the next 10 seconds or this guy's gonna die, right? So this guy chucks the thermocol heart. It's this big, the heart's this big, right? And and there's no way that looks like a heart. I don't know what that was. Maybe that was a prop for CGI and they forgot to put CGI instead of that prop. But the heart was this big. He throws it. I don't know which floor in the hospital of that the person is. He throws the heart, it's flying in the air. Now it converts somehow into a smaller heart. And it gets too tiny up to the point where even that's not like realistic. It gets too tiny, right? And it falls in the person's chest and automatically attaches itself. And the person comes to life. And that's when like, no, I'm dead. I don't care.
Okay, okay.
So,
So that's actually a parody movie that they created to
oh,
show
thank
how.
God.
So I asked one of my friend in college. Okay, so same reaction even I had. I was like, dude, how is this actually a movie? And like, how come this actually
Yeah.
came out of onto the theaters, right?
Hmm.
And then I asked my friends who are like Telugites and Tamilians. I was like, dude, who is this guy? Why is he acting for such a movie? And what is the story? Because I've seen only that scene, that particular scene. Like
Me too.
Facebook was very, And then I asked them, they're like, bro, that is actually a parody movie showing how dumb some movies can actually be.
Thank God.
And I
Thank
was like,
God.
dude, genius.
Yeah. Then it's a
Genius.
genius. Then it's an absolute genius. But for until now, I thought that was a legit movie, and people watched it in the theater, and I cried to myself. So yeah, fine. I'll give this movie a try sometime eventually in one of the
Uh,
years I've got left. Probably 60 years I've got left.
uh,
So
it's on Prime. It's on Prime.
oh,
Watch it.
okay, much easier.
Cool.
Cool. So where were we? Yeah, we're talking about how the airlines revolution came in India, right? But there's two ways to it, right? Where an Indian man, I'm talking from my dad's perspective, from my uncle's perspective, where even though we are probably middle class, right? And we're doing fine. We can probably pay 500 rupees for an extra train ticket. But these people have this mentality where if the train's costing them, say, 2,500 and the airline is 3K, they'd still do the train ticket because these people are not in a hurry. Right. And also there are like certain factors which are like only remote to some locations like Bangalore, where we also have to consider the cab cost from the airport, which is not in Bangalore, to Bangalore, right? Which is another one extra K. So there are certain things like that. So for airlines to become a very mainstream thing in India, we again need what 3-4 years for this airline industry to come back from the shock which was Corona. And I don't know. Yeah, Air India got a lot of shares got bought by Tata Sons, right? So yeah, I have hope now because it's Tata. Thank God, dude. So yeah, I think that's going to
Dude,
be.
like I saw some of these vintage photos of how Air India was actually like before it got bought by the government, and like the air hostess are all in like not even saris, okay? It's like proper traditional clothes, like flashy traditional clothes, and they look really good, okay? And then I think one of the customers or like one of the passengers of Air India, they complained about, I'm an Indian and this airline is also an Indian, why do we have toilet papers instead of that water wala gun, right?
Come on.
That spray gun. And the Tata guys were like, cool, we'll just add that also. Okay, so I'm not saying, yeah, maybe the complaint was very trivial for us, like living in 2021. But then it goes to show that Tata actually valued their passengers, whatever concerns that they had. And
True,
I think
but
they are on their track.
Mechanically and technically, I can just say that it would have been really hard for them to add a water thing in an airplane where space is already of such a big crunch, and adding a water reservoir which contains water, and then wow, dude, okay, pretty insane.
But the fact that they actually went through all that trouble just to make sure that it doesn't happen again, to go through all that engineering, what do you say, nightmare, right? Shows how much guts they have to go the
Tata's
extra.
insane. Tata's been insane. Tata's the most insane company right now, even in the automotive space. They own Jaguar
Which we
Land
talked
Rover.
about last episode.
Yeah, they own Jaguar Land Rover. They're making only safe cars. They don't make a non-safe car anymore. For the money, they just make a safe car. And the craziest thing is, after we had that conversation yesterday, let's just talk in terms of continuity. Yesterday, I went through Tata sales figures again, and Tata cars are literally at the top of their game right now. The Nexon is one of the highest selling subcompact SUV. The Tiago is one of the highest selling hatchback. Altroz is doing really well. So all of the safe cars are actually doing really well, which reinstates our point that we made last time, that the Indian consumer is getting more jagruk. They are understanding. So that's a pretty insane thing. Now, I don't think we have a lot to talk about the airlines industry at the moment. Do we?
We can talk about how costly it can actually be just to run it for one day, right? I think they spend about, even if you just own like 60 flights and consider you have 11 pilots, right? Assuming that 4 aircrafts are on the ground, no matter what, right? Let's say like they're being replaced. It would cost you around 200 crores just to maintain that, right? And you don't get to buy an aircraft. It's a lease. And these leases are offered in 3 months span, something like that. And also you need reserve funds just to put up a tender for the petroleum companies. And these tenders are only for 7 days. So if you don't get the fund for next 7 days, these guys will be like, no petrol.
No.
And you're screwed. Your entire fleet stays on the ground. So yeah, it's pretty, everything has to work like clockwork.
True.
Then again, each pilot, I think he gets around 38 to 45 lakhs per annum. That is excluding his life insurance and everything. Now multiply that by 11 pilots plus the petroleum tender plus lease.
And the cost, the airport charges for letting your flight be there at the moment. The airport charges, and then government has to put tax. I'm pretty sure there's a tax for flying, right? So, I mean, I didn't know it was this complicated until you told me, but don't you think this is too complicated to run something that's so essential, dude?
Okay. Yeah. I think the industry also has some of the best of mankind, right? Like people from Tata, these are people who are like in the top 0.1% of the population who are driven just to make sure that everything works. And I think we tend to forget how much contribution these guys have in some of these industries to revolutionize how some of these industries actually function. Like on the surface, like normal people like us, we don't even realize, okay, there's something flying over our head. If something goes wrong, it'll just come crashing down on us.
That's a different conversation, but I think I have an insane conversation which we can talk about right now. So it won't solve everything, because I mean, there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle, right? owning an airline or flying, like what an airline has to go through to be operational daily. So I think some pieces of this puzzle will completely disappear. Okay, and like, call me futuristic or call me dumb, but what do you think will happen when airplanes go electric? The whole fuel thing goes away, the whole tender thing goes away. All the airplane would need is a socket to charge from, basically, right? Which is available
Yeah.
everywhere, which is not
Yeah.
which is not a natural resource which has to be auctioned and bought and something like that. So how much of a change do you think that will make to the whole industry when airplanes go electric? And as an engineer, I can tell you that when airplanes go electric, they'll be much smaller than they are right now. They'll be of much smaller capacity, at least for the
Right.
next, at least for the first 20, 30 years of air travel. I doubt there'll be giant airplanes as we have right now, because giant airplanes can be only propelled by these jet engines. But what an electric motor can do, technically, it'll be probably at least 1/3 or half the size of what we have right now. So there'll be smaller airplanes, right? Which means technically a smaller cost to produce them.
Yep.
Right. So
you were saying, like, because of batteries and motors, the size of the airplane shrinks, right? So assuming that
at least for now.
technology, assuming that the technology required to reach to a point where we can have cargo aircrafts, right?
Yeah.
Domestic airlines will get revolutionized.
Yeah.
As in, like, we'll have more connectivity on how many flights are making a trip within a country, at least a country as big as India, where going from Karnataka all the way to Sikkim already feels like going to a different country.
True.
Right. So that's so people don't know how big is India. Like, on a map, it looks like this big, and then they look at US, they're like this big. It's huge. It's like 3,000 kilometers just across, like, Karnataka to Sikkim. Okay.
Yeah, so, I don't have my facts absolutely correct, but, like, are we like the 7th biggest country in the world? I think, yeah, as far as I know.
7th or 8th, it's disputed.
Whatever. Out of close to 170, 180, that's a pretty big number. 7 is a pretty big number. Yeah. So we're one of the biggest countries in the world. But what I'm saying is, because the airplanes will get smaller, right? And there won't be costs like a petrol ka kya. There won't be those costs, right? And because they're obviously smaller, obviously they'll be cheaper, right? So cost to directly buy an airplane instead of leasing it, I think there's a bigger prospect of directly buying an airplane instead of leasing it, right? What do you think?
There's an advantage and a disadvantage. So right now the companies are leasing these aircrafts because, let's say, for example, I'm running Vistara. Okay, I need an aircraft. I go to Boeing and I'm like, bro, I need an aircraft, but I'm not buying it because you know how to service it. So you give me the aircraft, I lease it. So whatever time period I have this aircraft for, you can just repair, and whatever, that contract is yours. So it's a win-win for both of them. Now, assuming that I buy this aircraft from Boeing, right? I don't have knowledge transfer. They're not going to pay. Like, even if I pay them, it'll be a huge sum for me to have a knowledge transfer from them, how to repair, how to maintain, and all these things, right? And also, let's say another pandemic hits. What do I do with this aircraft? The number, like so each minute that the aircraft stays on the ground, it's a loss for me.
Yeah.
Right. We've seen that in the last 1 year, how much losses these guys were incurring, and like 2-3 companies just went under the rug, gone forever. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a give and take situation. I don't know.
I have 2 counter arguments here. One is, when you're going to buy an electric scooter right now, right? What are the advantages a salesperson lists to you of it being superior than a petrol counterpart? What are the advantages?
You obviously mention, more efficient than petrol or like normal.
But I'll let you list until you get to the point which I'm concerned about.
I know what point you need actually. So maintenance is like pretty low.
Maintenance is negligible because
almost
motors don't need maintenance, right? They give you 5 years of warranty on a motor, dude. They're like, anything happens to it, we'll replace it. That's how confident they are. So nothing's happening to a motor. And until the point that electric airplanes become a thing, which is say 10 years from now, don't you think battery technology will be good enough to be self-sustaining on its own, where nothing can possibly happen to a battery pack unless something hits it, which will be
How
catastrophic
about a
even.
hack? How
No,
about a
no, no,
hack?
no. Let's not
So
get to hacks.
why I'm talking about hack is because the US has an aircraft which is supposed to be the doomsday aircraft. Okay,
Yeah.
so they built it assuming that there's a dystopian world where there's a nuclear strike on US. Okay, and they cannot use let's say the Air Force One, which is usually the responsible to take the US president out of harm's way, right? So they have an aircraft which is completely analog. There's nothing electric at all.
Yeah.
Right. So they made it assuming that there'll be a huge cyber attack plus a nuclear threat at the same time, and there's an EMP pulse that's happening.
Cool. Yeah.
Right now, are you saying that since that dystopian world is way in the future?
No, I think the whole argument here is between a fuel-powered airplane and an electric-powered airplane. And a fuel-powered airplane only uses fuel to propel. Everything else is electrical on it itself also, right? So
yeah,
them both getting hacked are of same level of security threat. It's not just that electric aircraft can get hacked more than a fuel-powered aircraft, because the fuel and the engine is only the propulsion system of the aircraft, right? Everything else is electric, even on this aircraft, which we're currently seeing. So if we can prevent this from getting hacked all these years, we can also prevent an electric aircraft to be hacked as well, right? That's not a point which we can hold against an electric aircraft.
I'm trying to bring the points, assuming that this video is on YouTube and like some guy has this thought, like, oh, electric is the hack ho jayega.
Yeah. But
right?
तो वो उतना ही then the possibility of electric airplane being hacked is equal or I'd say lower than that of a petrol airplane, right? I'm saying lower is because we don't have electric airplanes right now. That means we'll have electric airplanes probably 10 years from now. So our cyber security will be much better 10 years from now. Right.
Okay.
So they'll probably be safer in that way. Also, because of less mechanical parts, a jet engine has it doesn't have a lot of moving parts, but it's a very technical machinery. A bird goes into it, it's screwed, basically. Right. So I think that way, I mean, I wouldn't say electric is safer because you need to know that an electric aircraft will work on the principle that the World War aircrafts used, which is a propeller. Because that's how a motor produces power, it rotates. So they'll have propellers.
Providing thrust.
Yeah, they'll have propellers. They won't have jet engines because jet engines use fuel, right? So I don't think electric aircrafts are coming anytime soon, at least the mass market ones, because they can't carry enough passengers to make money. There'll be a lot of private electric aircrafts.
I have a different perspective, okay? Tell me if I'm wrong about this. People tend to assume that energy is equal to power. Okay, the amount of battery power that is required to create the amount of thrust to lift an aircraft.
No, like, they're not related.
Is there some?
Not really. I was say you have an aircraft 10 years in the future, right? And if say it's a scene of a movie, right? That a man 20 years from now is stuck in a desert with an electric aircraft whose battery is fucked, right? Sorry, I swear. But anyway, there is 100% possibility that he can get it flying even with a much smaller battery pack, even with a battery pack 1/10 its size. The size of the battery pack does not determine how much power the motor will make. Always. The size of the battery pack only determines how long the motor will run.
Okay. So is it related to how much voltage is passed into the motor?
No, even that's not
All
directly
right.
related. A small battery pack can produce as much voltage as a big battery pack. It can produce more voltage. Voltage is also not a factor here. It's just the capacity that it has. A small battery pack is a small fuel tank. A big battery pack is a big fuel tank. Both are fuel tanks. Both will provide fuel if they're designed in the right way. But a small battery pack will get over after 1 kilometer. The big battery pack will get over after 100 kilometers, depending on how big they are and small they are. It does not determine.
Does energy density matter then, like the batteries density?
Yeah, but density is uh, it's very specific, right? Density is very specific. So say the density of this mouse is X, right? If you're making a small battery pack with this density or a big battery pack with this density, the density will remain the same. So even that's not a factor. I'm talking about the size of the battery pack will not determine how big of a motor it can propel or if you can take off. Of course, you can take off. You will fall right after it, but you will take off.
Just a second. We'll cut this out.
So
So density.
Yeah. So let's not get into the technical side. What I wanted to talk about was when airplanes do get electric, and they will go electric because we'll have to get rid of fossil fuels eventually, very, very soon. When you look at the magnitude of the climate crisis we have right now. So we'll have to get rid of fossil fuels. So we will have electric airplanes, right? And there'll be small capacity passenger airplanes. I mean, there'll be small capacity recreational airplanes first, which we already have. We have recreational, I think 2 or 3 seater electric airplanes already. So then we'll probably have small capacity private airplanes, which will be replacing private jets, right? And then that's a different segment there. Then we'll have a small capacity passenger airplanes. By small capacity, I mean we probably can seat 20 people in it, which is a pretty big number if you look at it, but it's not as big as a petrol like a fuel powered airline. But what we also have to look at is a fuel powered airline requires to seat that many people because because of the price of the fuel it burns every kilometer, right? But now the price of the fuel is much different here. It's much cheaper. Electricity is much cheaper. So I don't know what the economics will be, but I think a lot of private companies will come into this instead of them there being like these giant monsters like Air India and whatever there is, Vistara and all. So I think there'll be a lot of smaller companies and I have a feeling that the companies which will produce these electric aircrafts will also be the ones running the airlines instead of them giving them to other people. Just like electric vehicles happening right now.
Creating an entire ecosystem.
They'll have their own ecosystem because then they'll get rid of the middleman. They'll get rid of all these auctioning system. They'll have their own charges, their own airplane, their own service team, their own airlines. So I think and you know why that's bound to happen? That's because right now, if you go to one of the big airlines, say Vistara, right, and tell them that, you know what, try this 20-seater electric airplane out. They're like, why should we? We've got these big giant monsters who are making us a lot of money. So they're not not a single one of the big airlines is going to try this small electric airplane, right? So but we also need these small electric airplanes to continue to innovate for the next 20 years. They can't sit stagnant right now. If they don't innovate right now, we won't have much better airplanes 20 years from now, electric airplanes. So now the only way for the companies that are producing these small capacity electric airplanes right now is to run it by themselves, because there's no buyers for them right now. So when they start running it by themselves, they'll be making a small revenue, they'll grow bigger as the electric airplane industry grows bigger. So all of these manufacturers will be creating a lot of airplanes right now. They'll also be one of the big names in the future because they'll also be running their own.
Do you think do you think the big sharks will, somehow find
Probably buy
themselves
them. Probably
funding
buy
these
them.
smaller companies?
Yeah. Of
Not
course.
buy them, but maybe because, see, when it's a small company that's trying to, innovate in a particular industry, I think the bigger ones will try to funnel some cash down the line, and
Definitely,
then be
definitely.
like, you innovate for us, you be our R&D and do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
We'll give you all the bells and whistles and toys to play around,
Yeah.
and like later we'll see what to do.
True.
Do you see
Yeah.
Tata doing this?
No, none of the Indian companies will do that right now.
Okay.
Because we're all always a few years behind. What I think is, no, what I know is companies like Boeing and Rolls-Royce, who create some of the best jet engines in the world, they already have departments who are creating small capacity or small electric airplanes already, because even they want to be ready for the future. What I'm not saying that these people will be completely wiped off the chart. What I'm saying is the companies which are producing the small startups, basically, which are producing these small electric airplanes, these will also be a very big part of the whole airlines industry in the future. Not only the ones that we have right now. The ones that we have right now, of course, one day it'll happen that, they'll think that yes, fuel is too expensive, we're not making any money, let's sell this, buy electric. Because they are a business. They only care about making money, right? Eventually. But what I'm saying is people who are creating these airplanes as engineers and as a company who's manufacturing the airplane, the only way they will survive is by running their own airlines, as far as I can know right now. So even so, as the industry grows, even they'll grow with it. I also had something else to talk about, but let's put that away. Let's talk about Squid Games, right? So there are two or three things I learned about Squid Games, which is pretty insane right now, which is not about Squid Games, but related to Squid Games, right? So my numbers won't be completely accurate, but very close to accurate, right? So Netflix bought this show for about, I think, 30 million from that Korean studio,
I
right?
think I heard the news, yeah.
30 million, right? And so after I went through a lot of these news and put everything together, no, it blew up for me. So what Netflix did was, before launching the show, they dubbed it in about 30 or 40 different languages before launching it. And then they launched it in all of the countries on the same day at the same time, right? In their own native languages. So, and nobody else has ever thought of this. Everyone's thought of, let's create the movie in whatever language that we want, English, if it's Hollywood, Hindi or whatever, if it's Bollywood. And then we'll dub it after this box office has done well. Then we'll dub it to make some little more money later, right?
Right.
Now, you know how big Netflix is. They don't really care about all these film studios because they're way past that, right? So what they did was they dubbed the thing in 40 different languages because Netflix is fucking genius. And they launched it in all the countries at the same time. And they're projected to make about 950 million out of it. They bought it for 30 million. They're going to make close to $1 billion out of it, which is more than a Marvel movie, right? And a Marvel movie has a production cost of what, 200, 300 million, right? This is a show which is 30 million, which is what Netflix paid them. The show is, of course, created for much cheaper. But because of this, where they made it regional, right? That's where they attracted the audience. And there are more, I have more numbers for this. So because they made it so regional, no, and because it's anyway a very widespread phenomenon right now, it's a global phenomenon right now, you may accept it or not. Sales of white Converse that they wear in the whole show no, have grown 1,700 times. And just sales, like that's how big. I mean, and a lot of things have sold a lot. The person, the girl who's the crazy girl who's there, she had 500,000 followers, I think a month ago. Now she has 19.5 million followers. She grew 19 million followers in a month. And this would not happen if the show was launched only in English or only in Korean globally. This happened because everyone who spoke different languages connected to the characters because the show was in their language as well. And because of that, it's come to the news for the last 5 days that almost every single show that's going to come out in the future in a lot of different platforms are going to have at least 15-20 different languages, not only one or two. So this is something that this was a genius move by Netflix, and it was a big gamble as well.
I think this formula was just floating around in the market, but like Netflix were like, let's take this. I'll tell you how. So when movies like what is this? Bahubali and that Kannada movie KGF, right? They had a lot of hype in their own languages. Like let's say, for example, KGF in Kannada, Bahubali in Telugu. Okay, when they released in all the other local languages, and then they became a worldwide hit after a certain box period thing.
Yeah.
Right. Like the Indian subcontinent has been doing the same thing, but the problem was that they didn't have stories which had global relatability. Like not many people were able to relate to some of these stories because they don't understand what is the pop culture references in Kannada industry or what is the pop culture references in Telugu industry, right? The Andhra and Telangana places. So I've been watching so many movies recently, right? Especially on Amazon Prime and especially Kannada movies, right? They have such good scripts. Okay, I don't know why they waste their time, uploading. Putting it up first in the theaters, then doing really bad, then uploading to OTT, getting really good reviews, but like they don't have money now, and then now they can't dub it, they can't put it to other film festivals or whatever. They cannot, go out. It's sad to see some of our own talent being like, they themselves rub themselves against the sand. But yeah, the formula was always there, but like Netflix was...
No, I don't think the formula was always there. The formula was very different before. What you're talking about, right, is say a Bollywood movie came out in Hindi, which it always did, right, in Hindi. It would go to that Telugu theater not on the same month as it is released in Hindi. It would go 3-4 months, a year later to the Telugu theater or the Telugu TV channels. It won't go on the same day. Right. Same with South Indian movies. When they're created in the South Indian languages, they're not dubbed in Hindi. And like, believe it or not, the Hindi watching audience is much bigger than the South Indian watching audience, right? Even if the movie is South Indian, but these are dubbed a year later or 2 years later or 10 years later, just for the sake of it. And then, the North Indian audience loves these movies because they've got crazy action in them and it's in Hindi. So why not? Let's just watch it, right? But someone like Netflix launching in so many languages on the same day at the same time, it created a phenomenon in itself where not only Hindi speaking people could relate to it, not only South Indian, Kannada, Telugu language speaking people could relate to it, or not only English speaking people, everyone could relate to it at the same time. And then there's Instagram, right, where the whole world is anyway connected.
Word of mouth, right? Like,
right.
Hey, have you watched it? Have you watched
it? Yeah. People put up stories. Right? So now when let's just assume I don't know any language apart from Hindi and some other regional language, right? And you're an English speaking person, right? Who's watched the show in English? Let's say you've watched the show in English or you've watched the show in Korean, which is the original language. But I've watched it in Hindi. And when I see your story on Instagram that you are also watching the show, right? Now I won't feel like, oh God, I have to watch this in English now. I already watched this in Hindi. And now I'm like, dude, have you seen the second episode? What an episode. Like, I can directly get to the conversation instead of first trying to translate the whole movie in my head.
Okay.
Or whatever that is.
I see the point.
So when you're releasing it in 40 different languages, which is, I'm pretty sure, covering most of the globe, right? Everyone on the internet can relate to it at the same moment. And that's what makes it a phenomenon. I don't think the white Converse sale would go up 1700% if it was launched in 10 languages. It was launched in 40 languages. People of 40 different languages, which is a very big population, watched it at the same time, related to it at the same time because it was their language, and then saw everyone reacting all the memes that came up. Everyone didn't react to what was written in the meme. Everyone reacted to what the meme's image was. It was somebody holding someone collar from falling and all. And because
That
everyone,
stupid weird doll also, dude.
yeah, whatever, right? So so I think this was a power move because nobody's done this before. This idea was not on the internet. And you know why this went so viral right now and not 10 years ago or 5 years ago? It's because of the COVID. It's because of
Everybody has time to.
internet becoming cheaper. Everyone's been on the internet for so long. Theaters have been shut down, so people have lost the thought of going to the theater and watching a movie. Everyone watches it on all these OTT things, right? So it's a blend of everything, and the power move from Netflix. Like, yes, this is an opportunity. Let's grab this opportunity. Let's release this one thing, which is just about people playing games and dying, and make it in 40 different languages where everyone can probably laugh at and relate to. And dude, they're making $1 billion out of it. They're making $1 billion out of something that does not cost much. Have you ever seen a low budget movie make more than 100 million? I've never seen a low budget movie make a lot of money. I've seen a low budget movie make decent money. I've seen a decent budget movie make okay money. I've seen an okay budget movie make a good amount of money. I've never seen a 15 million movie make 1 billion. There's no way that happens.
But here, let's say like, okay, smaller movies making like huge success, right? But since Squid Game is sold off to Netflix, right?
Yeah.
Would that still count as Squid Game's actually making money, or is it like Netflix is making money
Netflix
in the
made
name
the
of
money.
Squid Game?
Netflix made the money. Netflix owns the rights.
Cool.
All the money that Netflix will make will not go to Squid Games. If they made a contract with Squid Games that we'll give you 10% of all the revenue, then Squid Games made 100
royalties,
right? But no, Netflix bought the show from Squid Games. I'm pretty sure the creators of Squid Games also made a lot of money just by selling it off to Netflix. Their own margins, but they made normal show margins. We made a show. This is how much shows make 30 million. Let's sell it off to Netflix. But what Netflix is doing with this 30 million investment is insane. Because they're not making 60 million out of it or 100 million out of it. They're making 1 billion out of it. Pretty
I have some, weird theory about Korean culture and Korean drama, and like how these, what do you say, Eastern countries are influencing certain culture, like taking over people using their cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
But I think we can talk about in the next video.
I have some thoughts.
And what else do you want to talk about in the next video?
We'll start off with this topic and go where the conversation leads us. I think there's a lot to talk about in this topic itself.
1 second.
Cool. Great conversations.
So to round it up, airlines is very costly. Don't mess with it. And the way forward is electric.
Yeah, the way forward is always electric, dude. I mean, we had to choose an alternative fuel at some point. But what an alternative fuel has done for us, and electric is not just an alternative fuel. It's a completely different system. We're not using the same engines anymore. We're going to get rid of the engines as well.
It's an alternate way of storing energy, right?
Yeah. That's the thing. It's not an alternative fuel. It's an alternate source of energy. So when you use an alternate source of energy, then you can't use the same machinery to run it. That's why the motors are going to replace the engines.
So my mom asked, like, who am I talking to for so long? I said, my girlfriend. She's like, you don't have so much guts, dude. Shut up.
Lol.
I don't know if she thinks that I can't get a girl, or is it the fact that she thinks I'm too scared. I won't tell her. I don't know which one it is.
Or if you're so bold enough to tell her. Possibly.
Could be.
Yeah. Good that you brought this up in this comment. I'm gonna put this up, bitch.
Put it up, bitch.
Anyway, where were we? That alternate source of energy cannot use the same machinery, right? So electricity, when you use electricity, you can't use a petrol engine. So now the whole engine is changing, and because electric is so different, right? It can be stored in a different way. It's obtained in a different. It can be obtained from natural resources instead of someone digging the ground. It can. It's much cheaper, right? And it's much more efficient, and it does not need any maintenance. It's changing the whole industry in the point where the politics of the whole industry are going to change. The airline industry. The big players are not going to remain the big players if they don't play it smart. Like here, right now money is everything, as you said, right? You need the funds for the next in the future. Money is not going to be everything. It's going to be the whole business
Technology.
model and how you're going to,
Huh.
yeah, how far your planes can fly, how many recharging stations do you have, can your plane make a large flight by making several stops.
Cross-continental
Yeah.
flights.
So all of that. So I
Mhm.
think it's going to bring a lot of these smaller companies into action instead of these big players just playing with all their money.
Mm.
Hmm.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
Cool. Great
Good.
conversation.
So much of brainstorming for this
Yeah.
episode. I think this is
Yeah.
a lengthier episode.
Is it?
Uh,
How
yes,
long is
I
this
am.
now?
I'm pretty sure this is lengthier.
I'll see how long the recording is. Yeah, this already feels pretty long. Probably an hour, I
Yeah.
think.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Cool. So probably in the next episode we'll be talking about a little Korean drama and the Eastern side of culture and how
Yeah.
it actually how the Eastern tiny countries are actually playing it smart and what even though they're not contributing in terms of economy, right? They're
Yeah.
contributing a lot in terms of culture and they're hijacking a few things, but that is the suspense of the next episode. And I would also probably talk a little bit of geopolitics and a little bit of
Yeah.
other things mixed into it. And let's see how that conversation goes.
Boo.
Cool. I'll
Suspense.
make sure I don't. I'll make sure I don't keep you bored in the next
No,
video.
no, no, no. I don't think we're ever bored talking. We always have these
Mhm.
great conversations. I was just recording them.
Good. All right,
Cool.
Akshay.
See you
I'll see you
tomorrow.
tomorrow. Do you want to record tomorrow?
Sure, why not? If not tomorrow, we'll just make them believe it's tomorrow.
Fine. See ya.
Cool.